Intergalactic expansion and resource conquering are things we usually leave to the likes of Elon Musk and Daddy Bezos. But in Dyson Sphere Program, you play as a robotic named Icarus, dead set on squeezing every bit of life out of the resource-filled planets that he inhabits. Welcome back to Drnkie Indie, everyone. I'm Drnkie, and this is our weekly indie review, Buy or Skip. Our goal here on Buy or Skip is that by the end of this video, you'll have my opinion on enough information to know if you should buy or skip any given game. If you enjoyed this review while you're watching it, feel free to leave a thumbs up. It helps out our channel tremendously. If you enjoy the videos here on Drnkie Indie and you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and turn on your notification bell so you can see when we post reviews and other indie game content. This is Dyson Sphere Program, and here's my review. Released into early access January 21st, 2021, Dyson Sphere Program was developed by Youthcast Studio and published by Gamera Game. You can find this game on Steam, where I picked it up for $19.99. Let's begin our review. Story. Like most factory simulators set on isolated planets, you begin your journey in Dyson Sphere Program aboard a rocket piloted by yourself or by like an AI who is also talking to you at the time. Coming into a new solar system, Youthcast Studio sets up this wonderful feeling of the immense nature of this game by having you kind of skim by other planets and stars on your way into your destination, your kind of home planet where you're beginning. Upon landing, you find out from our nurturing AI that you're a robot named Icarus and that you are to begin setting up a base to start gathering resources. And true to the nature of this genre, the story itself is pretty light, it's pretty breezy, and it only really serves a purpose to set up this believable reason for why you're about to strip these planets barren. And I mean, we're taking everything from these planets. Everything. The story of this game, like so many other games in this genre, is really what you make of it while you're on the planet. Every smelter that you lay down, every conveyor belt you string along, these productions that you set up in these production lines, they kind of tell a story of what the player is going through and kind of what the robot is learning. How good are you at first? How much are you getting better? There's always these fun little unique stories I build up in my head while I'm playing these games. So it's not really what the developer is giving us, it's what you're getting from it that's going to be your experience with the story. Up next, graphics. One of my favorite aspects of this game is the graphics that you're living in. Being an absolute bona fide sci-fi dork myself, anything that is set in outer space automatically gives it like +2 inside of my heart. That being said, Dyson Sphere Program really brings it when it comes to their graphics. On the assets and production side, I love the look and the feel of everything that you're building on our little planets. The colors are rich and they're deep, and they deliver this great balance to the absolute emptiness of all of the outer space that you're seeing throughout your gameplay. The camera is pulled back just enough so that you can actually see the curvature of the planet that you're working on, right? And this is a great design decision because it keeps the sense of scale and perspective in line for you from the very beginning of the game, just right from the start. It could be easy for you to get bogged down in the tiniest little details around a certain area, but for some reason, to me, being able to see the gigantic stars and the planets on that horizon made me not stress too much about the small things because I knew there was bigger things to get to. And with that horizon always in view, the way our developer Youthcast Studios uses the planet's atmosphere is just breathtaking. It feels so real. I don't know how many games I've played where you're just in and out of the atmosphere, kind of like it's binary. It's either on or off. It's that simple. In this game, there is this gradual fade from the livable gases to the actual outer space that it's not only like downright gorgeous, but it gives this game such an incredibly unique look that I just couldn't get enough of. Graphics in this game are an absolute eye-catcher and worth the price of admission to play around it alone. They're just simply gorgeous. Oh, it's dense. Let's talk gameplay. If you're familiar at all with the factory simulator genre, then you already know what a lot of this game has lined up for you. But for the uninitiated, a factory simulator is basically Daddy Bezos' wildest Amazon dreams come to life, drawn within this pentagram of logistical worship. A brief overview for those who don't really know what's going on. You begin gathering natural resources like iron and copper and stone. These are mined automatically at they're kind of like nodes, and from there they're placed onto conveyor belts that run these goods to a smelter for refinement. And then either they go to a storage unit or to another building, which then assembles these refined goods into various parts like gears or magnets. These parts are then shipped off to a storage unit or to another building which assemble these parts into more complex parts or even structures that you end up building automatically, and so on and so on. That is a factory simulator. That's a very basic overview about what these games kind of have in store, but I hope you kind of get the gist of what we're talking about. The unique aspect of Dyson Sphere Program is just the amount of scale that this gameplay loop will run into. I'm not sure that I've seen another factory sim that is as expansive in its scope of what you can do. Not only is the game world absolutely mammoth, but the amount of tech to research and construct is bewildering. I haven't gone to the end of the game, but I assume the end goal is to capture the energy of an actual star, which in itself is just rad, but is wildly ambitious to set up in gameplay, and I cannot wait to get just further into this game. Right now, I've spent about 10 hours in the game. I've restarted once or twice. I just feel like I'm scratching the surface for how deep this game goes. And like most games in this genre, the learning curve is catastrophically steep. Within my first 20 minutes of my first run, it was quite clear just how abysmally I was doing, and I was just failing, and I had to restart. It just had to be done. Big oof. To make up for this learning curve though, there is a text-to-speech tutorial, but for the amount of ins and outs and little tricks that can get you into this game and make the game actually work for you, I just feel like the tutorial feels a little too shallow. Things like loading multiple types of cargo onto the same conveyor belt and then filtering them off through sorters, it doesn't really come up until a few hours into the gameplay, and by that point you're already heavily committed to the builds. I wish there was just a more hands-on tutorial, maybe a AI or AR, simulated tutorial for this stuff. I just feel like it can be done better. Overall, the gameplay in Dyson Sphere Program is extremely steep, but it's also deeply fulfilling. Its biggest drawback is the time sink it takes for everything to get built up from the beginning, and I wish that process was a little bit more streamlined, but this genre, the factory simulator, is one of the most rewarding genres you can play if you're into this type of stuff, and it's at the top of its class. Let's move on. Sound. The overall sounds of this game are really cool to be in. There is a sense of atmosphere that is just always around you while you're in it. It's kind of similar to how when you're on an airplane there's always this humming, but it's less annoying and your ears don't pop while you're doing it. To go along with this, all of the sound effects for each building and the conveyor belts that are running around you, they're all working and they all blend together just kind of beautifully. So nothing is too overwhelming than the other. I don't know how they do it, how they mesh this up. The sound engineers did a wonderful job. For so much going on in one game, it would be easy to have too much of one thing going on and just kind of fried my brain, but the sound wizards at Youthcast Studio pulled this off wonderfully. The soundtrack for the game is equally as good. Most sim games have these types of soundtracks that are very light and kind of almost bouncy. Dyson Sphere Program is right up the alley and it fits beautifully with some of the best in the genre like The Sims or City Skylines. I could find myself listening to the soundtrack for hours at a time without even realizing that it was on repeat. This would be a great study music for anybody. One of my biggest compliments about the sound and complaints is that when the music comes to an end, it's just so good and it fits the game so naturally that its absence is actually pretty noticeable. The sound design of this game lives up to its graphics and I'm really impressed with it. Our final category, replayability. So, one of the biggest appeals of the simulator genre is its replayability, and I feel like this genre of gaming almost has its own unique indicator of how good it is within this replayability that it has. There will be times, quite often, in fact, when you do find yourself looking to begin a new run to start over on your base or your city to just give it another chance. But what happens when you don't need that second chance, or in my case, your eighth? Simulator games replayability doesn't just come down to how many times you can come back to the game and start something new, but how many times do you come back into the same build and you keep expanding and perfecting what you have been making. With that in mind, I would say that Dyson Sphere Program is one of the biggest games in the genre when it comes to replayability. Not only is there always more ways for you to improve your production flow, but there's almost a seamlessly endless amount of planets always giving you that new chance to start something new but without leaving everything you've done behind in this run. This is a game that I feel will be a weekly driver for me throughout my remainder of 2021. There's so much for me to dig into this game, and it's hard to visualize the end game right now. Buy or skip Dyson Sphere Program. From games in the genre like Factorio or Satisfactory, I'm a huge fan of the factory simulator genre. It's a small niche that not everyone will enjoy, but the inner logistic planner inside of me gets this huge dopamine fix from playing games like this. It's a niche genre with some already stellar games within it, but Dyson Sphere Program manages to carve out its own unique space that is refreshing, it's fun, and it's an absolute buy. All right, that's it. That is the review for this week for Dyson Sphere Program. I hope it helped you out, helped you make a decision on whether or not you should buy this game. If it did, make sure you leave a like here on the video. If it didn't, thanks for watching anyways. Make sure you also subscribe to the channel so you can come back for more indie game content, and always hit that notification bell so you can see when we post videos here. All right, that's it. I'll see you guys next week for our next video. Bye, everybody. Bye.